And we're live. So, hello everybody. Nice to see you all again. We are resuming this live chat with, and this time we have Shawn Kelly. I think I've been a month or two without doing this, and nothing like no one better to start this than Shawn, because I've been wanting to speak with Shawn for ages. I've been pestering him over DMs on Facebook and Twitter on when can we do this? When can we talk?
I
I've been a
wanted to do it. I've wanted to do it. It's been busy. Yeah.
I know. You've been super busy, but finally, we actually got to do it. And I've been a huge fan of your work since way back, and you've been a big influence on my career in ways that you probably don't know, and I'll tell you about in a little bit. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff today. So thanks very much for taking the time, Shawn. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm honored that you thought of me, and I'm excited to be here. And I was just talking to Harvey right before we started, and just saying how excited I am to finally meet this guy in person. So
It's really cool. It's really cool. Coming from you means a lot, man. So, like Shawn, like you have done so many things as an animator, as co-founder. You have your own business, and you still animate. I would like. There's so many. I have so many questions for you, but I would like to actually kind of like take it all the way back on how you actually started. Like, where does this passion come from? Because you have this energy about you that, like, animation is the most important thing, and it's like you're having so much fun. You always look like you're having the most fun. So, how did it all started, man?
yeah, all right. I'll tell you how I started, but I will agree with you that it is always fun. Even on the hardest day, it's a lot more fun than 99% of the jobs out there. And I'm
Sure.
always very thankful and grateful that I get to do what I get to do.
Yeah.
For me, it started when I was 5. This is my earliest memory in life is my dad taking me out for a father-son pizza night, just me and him.
Hmm.
And my mom and baby brother were staying back at home, and I was super excited just to go out with my dad. And we got in this like super long line for pizza outside, and I saw a lady leave from like a couple doors down with a pizza, and I told my dad, or I asked my dad, like, is this like that? It looks like the pizza place is over there. And my dad said, I tricked you. We're not having pizza. We're having popcorn. And it was opening night for Empire Strikes Back, and we were in line to get into this movie. And again, my earliest memory is when we left that movie. Like I loved it. It blew me away, right?
Yeah.
And I asked my dad, like where is Hoth? Like I want to go to the ice planet. I want to
Yeah.
see the tauntauns and the adult walkers and stuff. And he was like, well, it's not real. That was made by artists. And I didn't know that I wanted to be an animator yet, but I knew. And from then on, all I ever wanted was to be one of the artists that gets to make Hoth. Like that's all I ever wanted to do was that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then all through school, I kind of dreamed of that. It seemed like impossible. And then in high school, we had an assignment where we had to choose like a ridiculous career goal that was unattainable, like aim for the stars, and if you miss, like at least you get to the moon, like that kind of idea. And so I had heard that, or I'd read that George was going to make more Star Wars movies. This is like a decade before he did. I'm old.
So, so that would have been like early '90s, right?
Yeah, early 90s.
Early '90s,
So
yeah.
I wrote down that I want to work on a Star Wars movie. And then that seemed silly, but I kept it in my head as like this ridiculous goal. And so then all through college, I decided to make every decision based on, does this take me one step closer to Star Wars or one step further away from Star Wars? And
It's
that
amazing.
was like, not good for my social life at all, but it was good for giving me a focus on
Yep.
on something, and I still didn't totally know I wanted to be an animator yet. I knew that I really liked to draw. I was taking tons of art classes, and I thought I wanted to be a director. I was taking film classes, art classes. I liked to write, and I was okay with computers. And if you kind of like smash all those together, it sort of becomes computer animation, which was very new at the time. Like Jurassic Park and Toy Story were like just about to happen,
Yeah.
So yeah, that led me to that concept of one step closer to Star Wars or one step further away.
Yeah.
Pushed me to put myself in situations where I wasn't comfortable, to like go to things I wouldn't have gone to, or to like be the guy who stayed after the talk to like go up and talk to the speaker for a minute, which for me that was scary, but it was like, well, maybe that takes me a millimeter closer to Star Wars if I
Yeah, it
go
needs
to
to
talk about
happen.
it.
Yeah.
So I started doing that, and that led me to like meeting people that I asked to be my mentors, and they started teaching me animation. And eventually I met Wayne Gilbert. Well, actually, I should say, so then I was going to the Academy of Art in San Francisco
Hmm.
because I heard that they had an internship with ILM, which wasn't exactly accurate, but they are one of the schools that you could get an internship at ILM through. So I went to that school for a couple of years,
Hmm.
got an internship at ILM. It was like a miracle. That seemed like a giant leap towards Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I was just literally making coffee and photocopies. But I
Oh,
was
you're a
around,
runner?
yeah, but I was
Yeah.
around the animators all the time. So I could ask
Yeah.
them, like, hey, what should I be learning?
Hmm.
And the cool thing I got to do was go to the classes that the animators would take. So Glenn Villepeu would come to talk about, quadrupeds or something. And I would be the guy like filming it for everyone. But I got to learn so much that way.
That's
And,
great.
and that led me to meet Wayne Gilbert, who ended up being kind of my longest term mentor. He had been hired to be a animation supervisor at ILM, and he had designed the curriculum at Sheridan College in Canada, and he had taught at Disney. And I knew he was like
Wow.
this big
Yeah, yeah,
animation
he's
guy.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So one day I got up all my guts, and I, again, like one step closer maybe. So
Yeah.
I asked him if he would teach me how to animate, and he said to bring in my sketchbooks, which I did. I brought these just, I mean, compared to most anybody watching this, would be terrible sketchbooks. But he saw potential in those and agreed to teach me. And he was super generous. Him and his wife like really took me under their wing, and I started going to his house twice a week. And I made him I like dropped out of school and made him my school, which
That's
was a
amazing.
giant gamble. I already owed like
Yeah.
a ton of money. And
Yeah.
when I told my parents, I'm gonna drop out and I'm gonna make this guy my school, they were like, really? Okay. But I learned so much from him. He was teaching me on paper, and in the meantime, I got like a generalist job at a game studio
Hmm.
for Star Software. They did mostly educational software, but also some
Yeah.
some other games like Load Runner and stuff. And it was fun to kind of do a little bit of everything there. And eventually, when he thought my demo roll was ready, I submitted it to ILM and
And the
got
rest is
it.
history.
Yeah, the rest is history. Super scary
That's
interview,
amazing.
and then was good news.
It's funny. It's funny because like I feel like we have years later. I had a very similar story of like just like trying to kind of like get a mentor, get somebody to teach me how to animate because I did a university course here in London, well
Uh,
down in London, West London University. But at the end of the 3 years, I learned absolutely nothing about how to animate. You learn how to, how it is, right? This is why you guys created Animation Mentor and all that,
yeah,
which is great. Yeah, so I actually finished my university the year that you guys opened up Animation Mentor.
sorry.
Yeah, I could no, I couldn't afford it, but I was like desperate to learn animation. And then Jason Ryan actually spent a good 2 years with me. Same thing, right? Like
That's
like through kindness and the like there was I didn't pay him or anything. It was beautiful and like this is how I learned how to animate. And it goes
fine.
a long way though. It goes a long way when you actually get to learn from others, because then you actually feel, at least I feel, like you need to give it back. It's just something that you have to kind of like, it
Yeah.
was given to you, so therefore you need to give it to others as well, right?
Yeah, that's what you're doing right now, I guess, right? That's awesome. Dude.
That's what I'm trying. That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying. But yeah, like it's really really cool to hear that you actually kind of got taught by Wayne Gilbert. That's like a legend in the game,
yeah,
and
yeah. He is a phenomenal teacher, and I owe everything to him. Yeah, he's
yeah,
great. He's
that's
working on
amazing.
a new. Oh, I shouldn't say. Never mind. I won't say anything. But
No
if you
problem.
see anything in the future that maybe he wrote, you should
Yeah,
get it because it's going to be awesome.
because it's gonna be amazing. That's cool. That's cool. So ILM, like I remember when you actually started Animation Mentor that you wanted to actually work in ILM, and I remember one of the questions that somebody asked you is like, Shawn, why don't you actually work at Pixar and DreamWorks and all these other places? And you said ILM, like through and through, right?
Yeah.
Like that passion that you actually had for ILM back then. Um, was amazing to me, at least. It
Huh.
made me feel like you actually stuck to something, and this is your passion, and no matter what it takes, you will stay with ILM. So like, is that all driven because of once again Empire Strikes Back, or
I think that that's part of it. The type of work that ILM does is super exciting to me.
Mhm,
I like that there's a variety of styles, kind of from show to show. I guess that's in my head right now, from going from like some realistic stuff to Space Jam 2 to now again something that's a different style I can't quite talk about.
mhm.
But I guess mostly the style at ILM is pretty realistic. But there's a wide variety of the type of work you're doing, whether it's like character animation or like a giant monster or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And those live action movies really appeal to me, but I love animation. And to be clear, like I would flip out to work at DreamWorks or Pixar, and I am in awe of them.
okay,
I haven't had that opportunity really come up yet.
okay,
Maybe someday, if that, if that happened, I'll be like super excited.
yeah,
But for now, I'm still really loving what I do, and I love this type of work. So I don't feel like starved to branch out like desperately or
yeah.
something. Um, not desperately. Like I don't feel like unhappy with the type of work that I'm doing. It's still really
It's still really interesting, right?
yeah, it's still
Yeah,
fascinating. In every movie, you're learning so much about something.
for
And
sure.
yeah, man. I mean, if I had the chance to work on like Soul or How to Train a Dragon or whatever,
You
like
jump at
oh my gosh,
yeah.
that'd be super fun. And
Who wouldn't? Yeah.
probably the most fun I've had animating was Rango, which probably other than Space Jam is the most stylized thing that I've worked on. It's not
Yeah.
like hardly stylized, but it's more stylized than our normal kind of shows. And that was a super fun project, and I would love to do more
Some
feature animation
more
like
of
that.
that.
But
Yeah.
Island was my dream, and I'm super happy there. I love the people. I love most of the projects,
Yeah.
and I've long since like something switched for me maybe 15 years ago ish, where I stopped caring about like what movie I was working on and more about who I was working with. And
Uh-huh.
I stopped asking to work on certain movies and started asking to work with certain people that I thought I could
Certain
help.
people. Of
Yeah, like
course.
who could I learn from? I want to work with her. And
Makes sense.
so yeah, and that has helped me a lot with my growth, I think, as an artist.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. So I kind of see it all as one kind of, I mean, each medium has its own quirks and technology
Yeah.
issues. Like I would love to work on a game. Like
Oh yeah?
I love games. Last night I finally beat Returnal. I got to the credits
You
after
beat
5 hours.
Returnal?
Yeah,
That's a hard game.
it was hard. It
so
was super hard.
so like I really need to talk about games with you because I know based on your Twitter thread, I know that you love games. So we definitely need to hit on that.
Yeah,
but
I
but
love that stuff.
yeah, but before we go into it, like I remember talking about ALM again. I remember that you did like a really kick-ass presentation about Transformers, and I don't quite remember what kind of like convention it was, but you're demonstrating this scene that I thought it was spectacular, and this is when I was like, man, this guy is so good. It was like Optimus Prime kind of like going through this forest down a hill while he was like fighting somebody, and he was like rolling down and all that stuff, and you're explaining like the process behind like how you actually got to that scene and how it was, and everything felt so organic, and like to me that like your work process, like the process that you went through to actually get to that scene and how organic that looked, made Transformers special to me. I mean, Transformers was always special to me because I was used to watch it as a kid, but like seeing the movies and like knowing that you are connected to it made me like think that this stuff is awesome. Like there's a true artwork behind it, you know?
Wow, thanks, man. I think the whole team did awesome work on the Transformers movies. That scene you're talking about in particular,
Yeah.
a lot of that work was done by like Eric Morganson, I think, worked on that. Greg Towner worked on that. Like a bunch of killer, like rock star animation team.
That's it. It was
Coming
SIGGRAPH,
out
yeah.
to make these battles, but Transformers in general was a huge challenge. We were super excited, especially with the first one. It felt very new, and I remember the very first time we saw transformation of the helicopter.
Oh,
They were getting that ready for the trailer, and we all like started screaming and dancing.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
this is
so
gonna be
so
awesome.
good.
Yeah, so that was a really super challenging but super fun project,
Yeah,
and that's one of the movies that really like drove it home for me that the stuff that's really worth um, doing creatively or that feels the most creatively fulfilling is the scary stuff, and the
yeah,
scarier it is, the more exciting and thrilling it is, but also the more satisfying it is to
for sure, for sure.
hopefully take
Yeah,
off. Yeah.
'cause you were a supervisor at that point, right? Animation
Yeah, actually,
supervisor,
Transformers was the first time I was a lead animator.
a lead animator.
And at
Okay.
Island, the way it works is there's an animation supervisor over the whole project,
Hmm.
and then lead animators are kind of sequence supervisors who are overseeing like different chunks of the movie, different
Yeah.
sequences. Or occasionally on a movie, you might also be a lead animator that's like a character lead. On this, Rango had like a character leads as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
my first time as a lead. On the first Transformers, the stuff that I got to animate myself the most is the section where there's this bad guy called Bone Crusher, and he kind of skates down the highway and smashes through a bus. And that was
Yeah. I remember
so
that.
fun to work on. It was
Yeah.
super fun.
That was amazing. That was a really, really cool. Yeah, that's real awesome. So like we have to kind of talk about Animation Mentor, obviously, because huge part of like who Sean Kelly is, and just catapulted you to like everyone knows Sean Kelly now. At least you might, from my standpoint. So like my biggest question there is like, how did you, Carlos, like the three amigos kind of came together and became like created Animation Mentor? And I know that it feels to me that it came from a very noble place, and like there was a missing part that you guys felt that needed to be filled, and you guys did it.
Yeah.
But like how did that happen?
Well, I met Carlos and Bobby at school. We were all in school together. And going through school, I learned more from them than I learned from anyone else, which I
Yeah,
think a lot of people have that kind of experience. And so we kind of became this core group with a couple other friends also who we were all sharing a lot of animation knowledge with each other anytime we could. And so we were just kind of in that mode of thinking anyway. And then after school, as things kind of started to evolve, and Carlos and Bobby, when they were working at some studios, and I was interning at ILM, and I started working with Wayne.
hmm,
Um, Eventually, so the Wayne experience for me was like gigantic, and I felt like I learned so much. And in some ways, Animation Mentor is an attempt to recreate that experience for people who don't happen to just miraculously find themselves standing next to Wayne Gilbert, who also
right,
miraculously has time and generosity to teach you. So trying to like get that experience out there for other people as well. And then after I worked at ILM for a few years, I started teaching as well at a university.
hmm,
And the class that I taught was the very last animation class before they graduate with an animation degree. And this school, their program is much better now, but at the time, not as good. So it was an experience similar to yours,
hmm,
actually, where my class is their last class. They've spent six figures
yeah,
um, on this education, and literally they don't know what anticipation is or squash and stretch is. And
yeah,
it was like a real shock to me that, oh my goodness, like it's still, like I'll try to do what I can in the next 3 months, but
yeah,
sadly you're not going to leave this. I didn't say this, but in my mind,
yeah,
they're
of
probably
course.
not going to graduate able to get a job yet.
Hmm.
So Bobby came one night to co-teach with me, and he was at Pixar by then. So it was like the exciting, like, wow, Pixar guy's coming.
Yeah,
And we talked, and then after class, we went out to dinner, and we just started talking about there's got to be a better way to
hmm,
do this that could cost way less money, and they'll actually learn what they need to know
yeah,
to get a job. And that kind of sent us down this road. We started talking to Carlos. For a little while, we were planning to do like a traveling, I don't know, like animation, like a traveling animation school, sort of, where animators would join up for like a week or two to teach as we like traveled around the world, like teaching.
that's
And
a cool idea.
it kind of was like a fun, like it
Yeah,
took us, I don't know. And then one day we were talking, and it was like, well, what if we try to do it on the internet? And at the time, that was really weird. Like
Yeah.
YouTube didn't really exist yet. It was like
I,
barely
re-
a
I
thing.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea of, putting video online to teach people, like that was a kind of a new
Yeah.
thing. That was a really new thing. So we got excited about that idea though, and went down that road, started talking to software engineers and like what would we need to do this, and we totally thought just the three of us could do it ourselves. We'll put the classes up and then we can like give people feedback at night, but
Yeah.
quickly realized that was
That
we
was not.
no, we wouldn't be able to do it all ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, it was a ton, like a mountain of work to
Yeah.
try to create it, but also fun and exciting along the way. I remember I was just telling somebody that we were working so much on creating the classes for like the
Mhm.
very first. So at Animation Mentor, you watch like a video, like a TV show about anticipation or whatever, and then you do an assignment and you work with your mentor and get feedback on the assignment and stuff.
Mhm.
So we were making those initial classes, like shows about the topics. And I tracked my hours for 6 months just to see, because I knew I was working a lot. So I was
Yeah.
curious. And my average for the 6 months was 124 hours a week was the average between the two like jobs. So it
Wow.
was a ton of work, but led me into this experience that has been incredible, where I've met
Yeah.
so many awesome people, and yeah.
And I mean, so many people actually kind of like are now working professionally everywhere because of Animation Mentor. And it kind of spurred out like different schools now, and there's like different mentors everywhere. And before Animation Mentor, I remember there was nobody. Like I remember I didn't know anybody when I was studying. I didn't know any other animator, professional animator when I was studying. Like in the university, it was really difficult to actually get to know anybody, especially from this side of the pond in Europe.
Yeah, I bet.
It's super difficult. So Animation Mentor just kind of opened the doors for everybody to kind of like at least be able to speak with somebody that is within the industry, that has a little bit of knowledge, that knows exactly where you're going wrong. It was awesome. It was
That
really
was our
cool.
goal, man. We wanted like no geographic barriers. You shouldn't have to
Yeah,
find yourself in like one of 4 cities in the world where you can like really be around animators and learn this stuff at the time.
that's it.
Yeah, and
No,
yeah, sorry.
pretty cool. No. It was really, really cool. And I remember in the beginning, you guys used to do these videos, you, Carlos, and Bobby, like having fun in parks and talking about
Yeah.
like taking reference. And I remember like Carlos like did this cool video with like I think it was skating or somebody skating. It was a lot of fun, and just seeing you guys from my perspective, because I was on the outside, I was not a student, but just seeing those videos about you guys talking about the animation principles but making them fun, was like, man, this is cool. This is like something completely different.
That's so awesome to hear, man. That's
Yeah,
great. We wanted it to be fun. We wanted to create a communal kind of experience too that sort of replicated what I had when I was in school with Bobby and Carlos, where I learned so much from them. We wanted to try to create a community where people would talk to each other and give feedback to each other and learn from each
yeah,
other also. And that part of it like way exceeded my dreams of
yeah.
like how close people got and how many friendships were formed. There's been I've lost track of how many marriages now. We went to the very first Animation Mentor wedding, which was rad. We flew to
Amazing.
LA. Yeah, it was super fun. But since then, I think there's been like the last number I heard was a couple of years ago, and that was I think 14 or 15 marriages, which is
15
rad.
marriages, people
Yeah,
meeting in class, and then
yeah. Yeah,
amazing.
so like how cool is that? Oh, the very first one, I should say. So we went to the second Animation Mentor wedding, technically, because the first one was mine.
All right. Can you talk a little
Because
bit more about it?
no, because we contracted with this video game studio to beta test the school while we were making it.
Yeah.
And Bobby was testing out the video conferencing stuff, like talking to like you and I are doing right now, which didn't really exist online. And he tested out for like an hour with somebody, and then he called me. He was like, "I just talked to like the coolest girl in the world for an hour. I think you'd really like her." and then she and I ended up talking later, and yeah, she was a beta tester, and we followed up
Wow.
right away. And yeah, we've been married for, oh my goodness, 15 years.
That is
great.
amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So animation gave you way more than you expected.
Oh my goodness, man. Yeah, I've got like an incredible wife,
Yeah,
2 beautiful daughters. I've
exactly.
got friends like everywhere in the world from
Yeah.
Animation Mentor. Like there's people everywhere that I can meet and hang out with. I've
Yeah.
gotten to travel all over the place to do Animation Mentor things or go talk about animation somewhere. Um, and then my personal, like selfishly, my personal growth as an artist has been massively boosted
Yeah.
from trying to help teach others. Like, you know, you learn so much from trying to teach other
Oh,
people.
for sure.
And so this whole experience has been life changing beyond, I think, anything else that's ever happened to me. It's been really
That is
amazing.
amazing, and it's incredible. Like I don't know if you feel the same way, but you feel at least as an artist, you feel like your confidence gets boosted when you actually have something that is like
A little bit.
successful, right? Like because
Yeah, a little.
you feel like not only do you talk about stuff animation, but then when it actually kind of clicks on people's minds and you can see the difference that it makes in their lives and all that stuff, all of a sudden you feel like reinforced, like almost like, okay, so this is what I'm supposed to be doing, right?
I feel like I'm maybe doing what I'm supposed to be doing as far as
Yeah,
like the teaching stuff and trying to, like you, I do. And actually, all three of us, in making the school consciously and talked about it ahead of time, wanted to make it a positive thing and help create a positive culture of people helping each other and not
hmm,
tearing each other down and trying to put out good vibes, you know?
for sure.
Um, and so I'm proud of being like a small part of that.
Huge
And that
part.
way I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do in that way.
Yeah,
And yeah, I am super beyond proud of the animators. You mentioned like the credits. Dude, I love watching the credits of everything. There's
yeah,
animation mentor graduates in like everything now, which is
yeah.
super exciting. And
It's
so
great.
I just clap like, oh, there she is. Yeah. So exciting.
Recognizing names, right, in the
Oh,
credits.
it's totally thrilling. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's super fun.
that is
Um,
so cool. That is
yeah.
so cool. And another byproduct of Animation Mentor is this. You used to actually do this email blasts. Do you remember? That used to actually be like, ask me questions. And then
Yeah.
you used to go through the questions.
Yeah.
Like that, because once again I was broke back then. That was the only way that I could actually, going back to that thing that you used to do, which is like ask questions and step out there and just get out of your comfort zone. I actually asked you a few things
Yeah.
and you actually answer, and to me it was like at that point in time, because I was desperate, anybody and all that. And you used to take quite a lot of time. It was not just like two lines, it was like a paragraph, two paragraphs, so like content they used to kind of like give to people. And the fact that you used to take so much time of your day to actually go through those questions, answer them the best you could, help out people that are not part of Animation Mentor like myself. Just it says a lot about you, and I think it's I appreciate it. Like to me at least, it made a huge difference. I know it's so small, but it's
Wow.
the small things that actually make a huge difference. So in
That's so
part,
cool to hear,
I'm
man.
here because of you as well. Because just the fact that you went like, Harvey, look, it's all right. Like here's how you do it. Think about these things, and it was like, wow, this is cool. I didn't thought about it before. Sean
Wow.
Kelly answered my question. I feel good for the next 3 months, 6 months. I'm pumped, so it's great.
That's really incredible to hear, man. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for saying that. And so many people have helped me along the way, and like the least I can do is try to help anybody else that's interested in this stuff. I know how hard it can be to find information or find clear explanation, and my opinion is just one artist's opinion.
mhm.
But if I can help somebody a little bit, then that's
You
that's
have.
that's what I'm here to do, right? That's why we're here.
Exactly. And here's another thing that I actually always admired about you. Like the level of positivity that you throw out there is something that I always like. There's a few people that I actually kind of like. Carlos is another one as well that we chat as well sometimes over message. But Carlos, yourself, Jason, Ryan, I think you three are very good examples of like, because so let me write a bit. So what happens in this industry, as you know very well, is that it's high pressure all the time, right? Like
Yeah,
every single project, and then you get personalities, you get people that treat you well, people that treat you really badly,
yeah,
and they don't really like care about your feelings. They just tell you what it is, and it goes on for a while as well. Sometimes a year, sometimes two, sometimes five. It goes
right.
on for a while, right?
Yeah,
So having people that actually go through all that and still are positive after all of that, and they actually can still find it in their hearts to kind of like be like, this is great, animation is great, and you have the perspective that animation is a cool job, and you just doesn't feel like any other job, because after a while it feels like that, right?
Yeah.
um, like I always admire you guys, because I feel like it takes something really, really strong inside of you to be able to go over that barrier of like taking things personally, and just kind of like, and it destroys your artistic side of things as well, right?
Yeah.
Because that kid inside of you dies, and you're just a grown up that is earning money, working for ILM or working for games or working for whatever,
Right.
and then you just go on about your days, and that's about it. But you guys genuinely find within yourselves to then still spread the love, still spread that excitement about animation.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? How do you find yourself kind of like being positive that way every day?
There's a few things that come to mind. One is something I don't typically talk about, but I think that it has affected me. So, one thing is that I was born with a heart problem, and I wasn't supposed to really live beyond, like, a doctor told me maybe into my 30s. So,
Really?
for a lot of my childhood, it felt like, oh, I'll do what I can. I don't know how long I'll be here. But then I had heart surgery as a teenager, and now they, said that I should live a pretty normal lifespan. So I feel like I got like a second chance at
Yeah.
life, and I want to make the most of it, most of it, most of it. And life's too short to spend too much time feeling bitter or angry or whatever. And like you said, that is creatively strangling anyway.
Yeah. For sure.
So you're just hurting yourself if you're sitting around complaining about work all the time.
Yeah.
So step one, I think I get a little bit of a boost from just naturally. I feel like, on the crappiest day, I'm here.
I'm lucky to be here. That's
Yeah,
great.
and that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, of course.
So secondarily, I try to consciously keep my inspiration tanks full by getting away from the computer sometimes to go do things that refill those tanks. That might be playing with my kids, or going to the beach, or reading a graphic novel, or playing Returnal, or watching a cool show. Things like that, fill me back up. I watch Mitchell versus Machine. I'm like, oh my God, you need to animate right now. And like, it totally like fills me up with inspiration.
For sure.
And if I start to feel like it's a job, then that's a trigger for me to be like, I know you're super swamped right now, but you need to take like 30 minutes tomorrow and just, do something that gets you excited about this and reminds you why you're doing this.
For sure.
And then the third thing is, I think that part of the journey of being a professional is, at first, a lot of animators, myself included, struggle with, you put all your heart and soul into this idea or this shot, and then they poop all over it, or the director doesn't like it, or they give you notes to like change it in a way that you don't want it to be changed. And then you go back to your desk and you're like, oh, they're making it worse. And you do what you can, and oh, this isn't going to be as cool. And that's just like creatively strangling, I think is maybe a good term for that. And as you grow as a professional, or at least in my personal journey and in the journey of some of my friends, increasingly you realize like, that's not, in a larger sense, it's not my shot. It's the director's shot. And my job is to put the director's vision up on the screen and add what I can to it. And if that's not what she wants, then that's not what she wants. And I'm her way of creating. Like I like to tell my students that, you are a tool. I am a tool.
Yeah.
And the same way that I use a mouse, or I use Maya to animate, the director uses me to animate. And my job is to, fulfill her vision or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can get into that mode of thinking, then when you get the changes, you're like, okay, well, that's not the way that I pictured it, but I'm going to try to make it as great as I can in spite of this note that maybe isn't my favorite note, and try to make what they like. I want to make the filmmaker happy, and
and the more times you go through the motions, the thicker the skin you develop, and then it just becomes a thing about like, where can I actually infuse myself into this whole idea, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm always trying to plus the ideas and bring what I can to it, and sometimes that means Like every once in a while, it means I get to just make up a shot from scratch and pitch an idea of like, what if it was like this? But
Yeah.
sometimes what I can bring to it is something super small. It's like the timing of the blink or like a little hand gesture I added in there or whatever.
Yeah.
And being able to be creatively satisfied with that smaller amount of myself going into there, I think is important to your sanity as an artist. And if I don't know, I feel like I've never had a shot where I didn't feel like I couldn't bring something to it. And if you feel like you can't bring something to it, I think that's a little bit of a problem with
Yeah.
your workflow or with the studio or with your work environment. And
Yeah.
I would try to shift that into a situation where you can add a little bit of something into there.
Yeah, exactly. Leverage the work the best we can, right?
Yeah, like the whole point of
Yeah.
hiring these artists is because you want them to be able to contribute, right?
Yeah, the creativity of it all. No, and that's completely right. I like something that I actually say to like my students or people that are actually kind of like willing to listen is that like doing the show reels and animating shots for yourself is the most fun and is the most creative that you'll ever be. Because it doesn't matter if you actually are in VFX or film or games or whatever, you'll never be as creative as when you're creating for yourself, right? When you
Yeah,
actually have unlimited reign in your ideas. So, at least from my perspective, everyone that I know of that actually wants to be truly creative, they do their job the best they can. But then you can also still do your job at your work, at your home, and then do your own shots. So you can, like, especially if you actually feel stuck and you
yeah.
actually genuinely cannot say anything or do anything creative, or you feel like, you're constipated creatively, then you just go, then you
Yeah,
just go ahead and create your own shots and get the creativity loose that way, right?
of course. And that's in a situation like that, like if you're animating somewhere that you feel like you're creatively stifled, you're probably not creating shots that or you're not being given the opportunity or time to create shots that will like super shine on a demo reel the way that you want them to. So doing that work at home is really your only path towards breaking out of that situation and getting yourself into a studio where you will feel creatively fulfilled, right?
Exactly. There's always studios out there and opportunities out there for you to tackle on, for sure, for sure. That's great. So I think we can talk about. Should we talk about games or should we talk about like Back to the Future?
Oh, well, Back to the Future is the best movie ever made.
You
Uh,
think?
I really honestly think that it is. Yeah.
See, growing up, I always wasn't decided. I could never choose. Till this day, I can never choose between Back to the Future and Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
To me, like they are, I don't know. It's difficult. They're awesome for different reasons, and yeah.
Yep.
But yeah,
That's a
Back to the.
tough pick.
It
It
is
is.
right.
Yeah. For me,
It's
it was Empire or Back to the Future for a long time. And then I realized that every time I'd be flipping through TV channels back when we had TV channels to flip through, if Back to the Future was on a channel, like I
yeah,
physically could not
yeah.
change it until, and I would watch it all the way to the end.
Yes.
I love it. It's magic.
Ah, it's magic. They genuinely managed to capture magic,
Yeah.
and like at least for me, whenever we used to see it in the cinema and come back, like we used to talk about it for like years. It felt it was incredible, like the hoverboards, and to me at least, I felt like the future was genuinely going to be that hoverboards and
Yeah.
flying cars, like in the year 2000, which felt like a long time ago. I'm like over 40 as well. In the year 2000, everything is going to be this way, and if it isn't, it's going to suck. Unfortunately, it isn't, and kind of sucks.
Well, I remember when we were kids, Zemeckis even said something apparently as a joke, but seemed to like fly around that the hoverboards they used were real. And so we had heard that they were like really hoverboards. But of
Yeah,
course, he said that as a joke, right?
and it looked so real as well.
Yeah, it looked awesome. I
It
loved
looks so
it.
real. Yeah, they nailed it. They nailed it. And like the
I work,
virtual shark coming out as well, and the Nikes, like they only managed to make those Nikes like 5 years ago. Like
yeah, yeah. At work, they've got one of the hoverboards in a little glass case. And it's
they
awesome.
do,
Yeah, yeah,
like from the movie set.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
amazing.
Walking around ILM that is something that inspires me. By the way, if I
Yes.
need some inspiration, I'll just take a walk around the studio, and there's R2D2, and there's so many awesome things on
Yeah.
display. So yeah.
Inspiring to actually walk through the corridors and seeing all that, right?
Hey, I don't want to miss our chance to talk about games a little bit though. So let me
Oh
just
no,
say
yes.
that I feel like games, especially in the last few years, the animation is like off the charts, incredibly great. Where I'm
Thanks.
like, especially those like big AAA, they're spending a ton of money and giving animators the actual time that it takes to make it shine.
Yeah, yeah,
Those
yeah.
games like look absolutely incredible to me. I know that you worked on Horizon Zero Dawn, which I thought looked fantastic.
Yeah.
I just finished, like I said, I finished Returnal last night. The animation's great, and in the credits, there's like 3 animators or something, or two. Like,
I know.
I'm
It's
curious about that.
yeah. So like the industry, like I'm pretty sure there must have been more. There might be outsourcing studios and all
Mm,
that. And but I was just talking to about this like a chat, an interview that I had not long ago, that the industry is so new that sometimes like the work gets lost.
yeah.
Like for example, VFX back in the like early 2000s, late 90s, like VFX crew pretty much non-existent. It
Yeah.
just happened, right?
Right.
Games is going through a little bit of that, about like just like
Uh,
some studios actually credit people properly. Some studios just go like, these are the 3 people that were managing the external studios that did the work or something like that, right?
well, I feel like for a little while it was like just a few super top tier studios that had maybe the budgets and
Mm,
crew to like have this animation that would just like knock my socks off. And now there's kind of a lot of
yeah.
studios putting out like really solid work, and it's exciting for me as an animator to see that some like clearly some importance and budget is being
Hmm.
put into those performances
For
to
sure.
live up to this new higher bar. And
Yeah.
as an animator, that makes me love games even more.
Yeah, that's a genuine shift going into the industry, because when I started, like games were seen almost like a second class animator job kind of thing. Like you normally would want to go to VFX, film,
Right.
TV, and then games, because games were like basically a dark box. No one really knew exactly what an animator does in games. You just go
Right.
into the industry and then you disappear, and then animations come out of the other side. No
Mhm.
one really knew about the process.
Right.
I think that's why people didn't want to go into games. But now things have shifted in a way that pretty much every teenager that wanted to go into the university, and every adult coming out of university, if they play games and they want to be an animator, they want to work in games.
Okay.
And it's really really cool, I feel, because now we are spoiled for choice. I feel it in my job, whenever you go through show reels and stuff. There's so many animators. They go like, I want to be a gameplay animator, nothing else, just
Right.
gameplay animator.
Yeah.
And when you get people like that love animation, are really talented, all of a sudden they put a lot of love into the game making process, right? And it's just, what the end result is incredible. The stuff that we're doing right now in the company that I am right now is pretty incredible because of exactly those reasons.
Wow, I can't wait to play
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it.
exactly. What what
Yeah,
what is uh what is your favorite game of all time, if you have one, or top 3, let's say?
that's tough. I'd go way back and say TIE Fighter from forever ago.
Yeah.
It was a really fun game where it was, on your PC, you got a joystick and you are a TIE Fighter who is like going through this really cool story and fun gameplay. I loved that. Maybe the first Zelda like blew my mind as a kid.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I could top either of those with, I mean, maybe.
On the NES.
Yeah, like a lot like my third choice would be like 12 different games from the last 3 years. Basically.
Like,
But I think maybe most recently, I mean, I've been obsessed with Hades lately, but I
yeah,
think
Hades is amazing.
stuff like Last of Us Part Two like was an incredible experience for me. I loved that, and the
Hmm.
performances were killer.
Yeah.
The Miles Morales game is like amazing. I don't know, man. For number three, I just got to reserve it for like
Whatever's coming.
rattle off all of these. The games that I love the most lately are the kind of single player, third person narrative story of like Uncharted 4
Yeah.
or like the Last of Us games, Horizon Zero Dawn. Like
Yeah.
those kind of games are grabbing me the most lately. I loved Red Dead 2. Um, all of those kinds of games. I used to
Yeah.
be like shooters for a long time. It was the Battlefields and Call of Duties and like those were the games that I loved the most, and I still really love those games. But it
Yeah.
has shifted for me lately, and I it's partly I think being in a game where you get to appreciate more of the performance and story stuff. I like that narrative
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes complete sense. I think like most animators that I know of, I know like single player games because of exactly that, right? And the
Yeah,
better they're made, the better it feels.
like the best shooters also have a good storyline and narrative thing going on, but those single player games, that's a much more heightened
Yeah,
narrative experience that I enjoy.
the third person it makes a huge
Absolutely.
difference, right?
Yeah, it does. It makes a huge difference. I get to see the character doing stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. Yeah, no, I love the fact that you like to play games so much. It's really cool. You're a proper gamer. Like you're always on Twitter. Like I just finished playing this. I'm playing this. I'm loving it. It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's really really cool.
Well, I'm super blown away by the artistry of games, especially in the last decade or so. I mean, as technology has improved and the
Yeah,
platforms have improved for the games, I'm just I'm knocked out by it. And to your point about how in the old days game animator seemed less than
yeah.
some other jobs, I think that has flipped or is flipping,
It's
and
flipping. Yeah, for
it's
sure.
kind of like how in the old days getting like a big famous movie star in a TV show was super weird because
Yeah,
TV actors were like way below.
second class.
And now that is super flipped. And
Yeah,
like if you're the big time actor, you want to be on HBO or Disney Plus or Netflix or Hulu or whatever.
for
And
sure.
it's kind of an interesting parallel.
Yeah, no, so cool. By the way, guys, for everybody in the chat right now that wants to ask questions, feel free. I've seen like I don't know if you can see Sean, but like there's like lots of comments coming through.
Oh, I did not see
Um,
it. Now I see there's a comments area.
there's all kinds of comments
I have it.
that people are actually making. People are excited, I think.
Huh.
So feel free to ask Sean questions.
Well, Ghost of Tsushima is awesome. Now I'm reading the comments.
Ghost
I
of
love
Tsushima.
that game. That game was killer, and you
Yeah.
should definitely play Hades. It's great.
Have you played Crash Bandicoot, the latest one?
Yeah, and it's great. And I'm
It's
looking forward to
amazing.
Ratchet and Clank. It's
Ratchet and Clank, yeah.
I think, isn't it?
Is
It's wrapping up.
9th? Is it 9th or 4th of June or 9th of
I think
June?
it's either next week or the week after.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Ori in the
I have not played that, but I've watched clips online. I think that's just on Xbox. I think, and I don't have an Xbox.
Yes, it is. It is. I actually have a like I didn't had an Xbox for years. I just got the Series X now, and I'm loving it. It's so
Nice.
good. It's so good. Have you
Somebody
got
just mentioned Kena. I don't know if it's Kena or Kana, but that looks awesome. I was showing my daughters the trailer for that yesterday.
Kena?
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
I don't think I know about that.
It's cool. It's if I'm thinking of the right thing, it's about like a girl on a journey with these little friendly
Little black things with the eyes, with the big eyes.
Yeah, with big eyes.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it's like the trailer for it's like you're watching a DreamWorks movie or something.
Yeah. It looks amazing. I think that the team there, it's killing it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So yeah.
About this. Yeah,
no, it's fine. Did you get the PS5 or the new Xbox?
I did. I super lucked out with the PS5.
Yeah.
My brother called me and he was like, "Hey, I saw this thing online where like they're gonna release them tonight early or something." This was last year. So that night I was up till 2 a.m. just refreshing for like 2 hours on this page, and I'd get something in my cart, it'd be gone. I'd get it in my cart, gone. And then I didn't give up. It said sold out. I just kept refreshing, sold out. An hour later, sold out, refreshing, and then I got one. I kept
That's
thinking like
amazing.
maybe somebody won't like finish their thing or they'll change their mind. Yeah, it was like a miracle, and now my friends are still stuck trying to get them. But
Are they super jealous right now?
a couple of them are, yeah. I feel bad.
Yeah.
Once the apocalypse is over, they could come over and play on it.
And play exactly. Yeah, it's funny though because I actually like even though I'm in the games industry, you don't get PS5s and Xboxes just like that. You have to go through the same process as everyone else. And for me, here in the UK at least, they messed up because what happened was that like when Sony was doing their press conference, they said like the PlayStation is going to be available tomorrow at this time, right? And especially here in the UK. So I actually went online while the conference was going on to actually check on the websites that I actually go to. Normally you can actually add your email and then be like, get notified. And as I was going through the websites, I could see available now, buy now. And I'm like, what? So I went ahead, put my credit card and all that stuff, ordered it. Lo and behold, they actually got sent the stuff. Next morning, within a few hours, next morning when it was supposed to be available, it was sold out for everybody else that actually had to wait. So people were like mad with Sony because it was misinformation, right?
That's exactly same thing happened here. That's exactly what happened to me.
Oh, it
Where my
happened there as
brother
well.
called and he was like, "You can buy it right now." So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah,
It's crazy. It's really crazy.
like a chip shortage or something.
Yeah. So what is the next game that you're gonna play then?
Ooh. Oh. I don't know. Like last night, I finished Returnal at 2:30 in the morning, and then I was like, okay, I know there's more to this game, but I've seen the credits. Thank God I can stop being obsessed with this. I'm not going to play it anymore. And then I played it for another half an hour. So I might play a little bit more Returnal.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty excited about that Ratchet and Clank. I've never
Yeah.
played a Ratchet and Clank game.
No?
It looks really fun. So it'll probably be that, I bet. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Play Nintendo with my girls.
Like the thing Nintendo, like Switch, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like the thing that at least in the industry we talk about the Ratchet and Clank games is the weapon mechanics and the creativity that we have with weapons. Insomniac is really, really good at creating weapons that feel good to shoot, but also they are incredibly creative. Like you can shoot all kinds of different things, and it has really cool reloads, and like you can actually get things together and create something else. The creativity for the weapons, the shooting mechanics, and all that stuff, like they actually like nailed it so well.
I don't know that much about it. I've been avoiding spoilers. I saw part of a trailer and I was like, that looks rad, and it's Insomniac. I'll play anything they ever make forever. So I'm excited to play. I love the Spider-Man games so much. I think they're incredible.
The Spider-Man game, they nailed it so well.
Oh man, the animation is
awesome. And getting those mechanics to actually work well in games is really difficult. That sense of speed, and yet actually be like super pleasant to play. It's incredible.
Cool.
Yeah.
What are you playing?
What am I playing? I'm playing like whatever I can actually have time for at the moment. There's a few games that I actually hop in and hop out. So Forza, I'm playing at the moment because it's just the only game that I can actually go in and be like, yep, spend like 5 minutes on it. Feels great. But then every other game that I play is normally to kind of like analyze, study, and admire the animation they do. So like Returnal, I have it in my like I haven't played it yet because we just moved house. This is why everything is a mess. But I have it in my list to play. I'm yet to finish Spider-Man, but every time I play it, especially with my daughter, she's like super addicted to it as well. She's like Spider-Man. She's a massive fan.
That one's actually great for kids too because they can just swing around the city for eternity if they want.
It's great.
My girls love just swinging around.
Yeah. It's so good. So yeah, I'm playing that as well. I'm playing this game that I keep forgetting the name. I forgot it the other day as well. It's an RPG called Disco Elysium.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. I haven't played it.
Do you like RPGs?
I like some like light RPG stuff. Like I love the Assassin's Creed games, and I actually really like the newer one. Like I loved Valhalla and I loved Origins and Odyssey, and those
Okay.
are RPG-ish. And I played that Final Fantasy VII remake. That's the first Final Fantasy game that I played, and
Okay.
that's RPG-ish. I
Yeah.
like Zelda games. That's RPG-ish, but I don't know if it's like full RPG. I don't know
Full
if that,
RPG. No, it's not. It's actually it's very clever. It's super clever. Yeah, like give it a try if you can, or at least play like the demo. I think they have a demo. Like even for people that don't like RPGs, because of the way it's written and narrated and all that, it's very addictive. Very addictive. Very. It's about a detective that is half drunk and wakes up in the middle of nowhere, and it's like you wonder like, what is this guy about? And you can hear his thoughts, but
oh,
like there's different thoughts in his heads, and like he actually it's almost like he has different personalities. It's very well written. It's very well
that's
written. Like
cool.
going back to the idea that you mentioned about like appreciating the art within the game,
Uh-huh.
that is definitely one of those games that is like, wow, like it's really well done.
That's awesome. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I have like the games that I love all have stunning artistry in them, and I think that that's a big part of what I like. Like I'm in this world that's beautiful and fascinating, or dark and scary and fascinating, or whatever. But just like soaking up that artistry, and you know, sometimes in the heat of battle, maybe you're not like analyzing every little thing. But in
yeah.
those games, you can always just kind of walk around a little bit sometimes and just taking in like the world that they've created and the world building of the storytelling and the character actions and stuff. Like I don't know, I'm fascinated by it
So
and
good.
by it. Yeah.
And so, just out of curiosity, since we've been talking about games, I want to talk about you, obviously. So, what kind of games? You mentioned that you would love to work for a game on a game one day.
Sure.
What will be like your dream game if you actually like a studio or a game that you could work on like right now?
Oh man, Dream Studio, I could rattle off like 10 of them probably. There would
Yeah,
all be like amazing dreams come true. Um, Type of game would be like a narrative kind of journey, like
yeah,
like Spider-Man or an Uncharted game or something like that. That would probably be my dream. I really love to write as well. And the idea of maybe getting to contribute in that kind of a way to a game is also like if we're just talking pie in the sky, like dream gig,
yeah,
like that sounds really exciting too. I think doing the cinematics or in-game animation, both of those are pretty equally exciting to me and appealing to me.
yeah.
I
That's what I
used
was gonna ask you.
Yeah,
Like gameplay or cinematics for you in games? You think?
cinematics would be a lot closer to what I do now.
Yeah,
And so maybe that's more comfortable in a way. Um, but also would be super fun. And the in-game actions, the gameplay stuff, I haven't done,
yeah,
but it seems like it would be so fun to hit a button and make my guy do something that I animated. Like
yeah,
that, that sounds super fun to me to be able to like
yeah.
trigger like some cool fight move
It
that I
is.
did. Like
Yeah,
that sounds really thrilling. And of course that has like a whole host of considerations of like how those moves are going to flow into the next move, and like that stuff is also a fascinating puzzle to me that I think would be really fun to dig into someday. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I hope you get to do it because it's an acquired taste though. It's one of those things
Yeah.
that you have to like. You need to take some time in order to actually find out. Because in the beginning, you're probably coming from film or VFX. You actually probably find like, what is these things? There's so many different things to actually take into account. But
Yeah, sure, of course.
once you see like a whole set of animations that you've done come to life in Engine, and then when you press that button, it feels really really cool.
Huh.
It's like it's magic.
Yeah,
There's
it
something
sounds like it would be
special about it.
magic. I was actually
Yeah.
talking to a guy that is at Insomniac who used to work at a feature animation
Mm.
studio, and he was saying exactly what you just said, like that it's magic. It's so fun to
Yeah,
do the gameplay stuff. So
completely,
sounds,
completely.
sounds exciting.
Yeah, no, I hope
Can
you
I,
get to do it.
can I touch briefly on something? But I
Of
was
course.
still on out of time, and I happened to glance over at the comments at this one moment, and someone's talking about like trying not to compare yourself to others, and I think that that's an important thing to highlight. It like jumped out at me as like, we should talk about that for a minute.
Yes,
And
yes, please do, please do.
yeah, and something that I tell my students is that I think about animation as this mountain, and we're all climbing Animation Mountain, and we're all at different places along that path going up the mountain, and we're moving at different speeds up that mountain, and none of us are going to get to the top of that mountain where we like know everything about animation. Nobody's going to be that. Glenn Keane would tell you he's not at the top of the mountain, even though maybe he would be wrong if he said that. But maybe he's the only one. I don't know.
Yeah.
But most of us, we're never going to get to the top of that mountain in that way. But it's important not to think of it as a race to climb the mountain. What's important is that you take that next step up the mountain and just keep taking steps up the mountain. And if you find out that you've kind of plateaued and you're like sitting on a ledge on the mountain for a while, kick yourself in the butt and like just take one more step up that mountain. If you see somebody is like sliding down the mountain, grab their hand and like pull them up the mountain, and we'll all climb up together. It's not a race. It's nothing you should be thinking about like, oh, Harvey's such a way better animator than me. Like, don't let that get you down. Let that like fuel you as like, oh, that's awesome for him, and he's at this point in the mountain, and I can get there too if I just take one more step today and one more step the next day. And think of it like that. It's an artistic journey. It's not a race.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's the way I see it as well is like it takes a lifetime for you to actually kind of be a good animator, if you actually get to be a good animator, right? Like
Yeah.
so some like maybe the 9 old men were, maybe Glenn Keane, but it takes a lifetime for you to actually master this, and I think each industry has its own challenges as well, right?
Oh, for
That
sure.
required mastering as well within it itself. So I think you're completely right.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it. Every, whether it's games or TV or stop motion or movies or like whatever it is, there's always going to be a like pretty wide variety of individual challenges and things to know about that medium. But at the core of it, there's still going to be the art of animation. And it's going to be about clear ideas and clear actions that tell a story. And as an animator, I think you can jump around between those mediums as long as you can navigate all those individual like pitfalls and traps and learn like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
well, themes I need to like do this and this and this. Or feature animation is different from VFX animation in these kinds of ways. And
that's true.
yeah.
Completely. I have another good question here for you as well, Shawn.
Okay.
How can you handle the pressure or not feeling satisfied about your work despite you are being telling that it's very good from instructors and friends?
So how do you handle the pressure? Like you personally don't feel it's great yet, even though your teacher or somebody said that it's good. Well, to a certain extent, welcome to being an artist. That's going to be kind of normal. It's not rare that you don't feel like you personally finished the shot as much as they said it's good enough and done, and they take it away from you, and now it's in the movie. Depending on the medium and the budget, that might happen more or less. Like if you're doing a lower budget, fast-paced show, probably none of those shots are going to be like exactly the way that you wish that they were, but that doesn't mean that they're wrong or bad. They're good enough for the budget that storyteller has to tell their story, and you're satisfying that storytelling need. And so that means that it's great animation. That it was great for what that is, and you can be proud that you got it to that point for what that is. Sometimes you'll be told that something's good and you don't feel like it's quite there yet, and it's a thing that you can continue to work on, like a personal project. And in that case, I would try, pick away at a night, show it to some other friends, get some feedback. You can show it to anybody. It doesn't have to be Harvey and I. Like you can show it to your mom or your brother or your neighbor and say, hey, what do you think of this? And they might not know how to fix something in your animation, but anybody can tell you whether or not an idea is clear or if it looks like real. Like they might say, oh, it looks a little fake. They don't know how to fix it, but at least then you get some tidbit of information like, oh, yes, that's what I thought. Okay. And you're creating your animation for an audience, right? Not just yourself. So the only way to know if it's working for an audience is to show it to people and find out what they think. So getting feedback is pretty key. If all of your friends and your teachers say it's awesome, maybe it's awesome and start working on something else. And that's okay too. Like I don't know. If
Yeah.
the longer you animate, and the more you give feedback to other people, the more you will train your eye for your own work and have a better idea of what you can fix in your own work. So sometimes you don't really know, and especially at first, it can be really hard to see anything wrong with your shot because you've seen it a million times. You can really get blind to it. And if you're a perfectionist, which a lot of animators are, it can be hard to let it go. But there is such a thing as overworking it and animating it to death. And maybe you lose a little bit of the spark of what made it special because you noodled it over and over and over and over and over. So sometimes you just gotta like set it aside. And the best advice I think that I would give the person asking that question is just to stop working on it for a couple weeks, do something else, and then look at it again. And maybe your friends are right, maybe they're not, but you'll have a better idea with fresh eyes.
That's true. Yeah, and there's something to be said about like animation is never done as well.
Yeah.
And that feeling, of like letting go of the animation is something that you learn the more you animate, right? Because in the beginning you genuinely feel like you can work on this shot forever until it's super polished and every single little thing is like super amazing. But when you become a professional animator, you need to let it go when they tell you to let go, because if it's good and it's done, then it's done and you have to move on to something else, right?
That's exactly.
And sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it just feels like something has been taken away from you.
Yeah.
And
it's also normal to not look at your own animation and think it's like the best animation you've ever seen. It's pretty normal to, be hard on your own work and not feel like it's as great as you wish that it was. I think everybody probably feels that way.
yeah, when it's not yours, it's always better, right? Because you don't feel attached to it. So it's like, wow, you can see it clearly for how awesome it is. But
that's me in dailies at every movie that I've ever worked on, watching everyone else's work and being like, oh my God, like, how did they do that? And then mine comes on and I'm like, okay. I think that's just normal, and probably everybody, or maybe not everybody, but I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, exactly. And in this, want something else to add here. Also, whenever people like criticize your work, especially when it's like co-workers, directors, supervisors, like sometimes it comes across as being like super harsh. So it's the opposite of what you're talking about, Tarek, right? So you actually kind of like work super hard, you're proud of it, and then someone comes along and goes like, "This is not good enough. Go back and do it again." And that's another thing that you have to get used to it as well, right? It makes you better fast, but yeah, it hurts quite a bit in the beginning.
Yeah, you'll grow a thicker skin the more that you animate. And I think the more you can think of, like, even if the way that I would approach it is, even if on the rare time, but this does happen sometimes, but on the rare chance that the person giving the feedback is kind of a jerk and not a nourishing, teaching kind of a force that is trying to help you make your work great, which that's an unfortunate situation, but that does happen sometimes. Mm-hmm. In that kind of situation, just pretend that it's not personal and that it's just about the work. And usually it's true that they're not, like, I've gotten some pretty harsh comments from directors before who I've worked with a wide range of directors, ranging from like super friendly and kind and nourishing and encouraging to super blunt, like as blunt and rude as you could imagine. And really, if they say something rude about like my blocking or something, they're not saying that rude thing about me as a person or even me as an artist. They're just expressing that this isn't really what they want in a rude way. But they're talking about the work, and all the comments you're getting about the animation is in service of like making that animation better or the way that it needs to be for that project or style. And so even if they are being like a little over the top, like in my mind, I just switch it and be like, okay, they don't like the blocking, but they're not talking about me as a human.
Yeah,
they're talking about the work, and that's a good shield to have up, and just like block those comments.
That's it.
It's just their anger goes into the screen instead of me.
Yeah,
like, a new version that you're gonna like better.
That's a great way of seeing it. I like to think that they are too busy to actually be kind. That's another thing that I like to think about, because they have a gazillion things going through their minds as
Yeah,
directors, not only animation but many other things, and sometimes they don't have like the time or the people skills to be able to kind of like take the time to kind of tell you things in a nice way. So
yeah,
they just tell it how it comes to them because they just want that shot to be a certain way, and then they say it and then they leave, and for them it doesn't even like clock. They'll forget about it tomorrow, but for you it just ruins your world. You spend 2 weeks thinking about it, you think he's the worst animator in the world and he's horrible. And yeah, as long as you don't take it personal, as Shawn mentioned, just make sure that it's about your work, it's not about you as a person.
and
uh,
if you do get your soul crushed from, you know, somebody being rude, or it's just much more likely is that there's something you animated that you really like and they don't,
yeah.
or that it's just not right for this moment in the project. uh, if you have something else that you can work on, like very often you might be doing multiple shots at the same time. On the times where like I loved this idea that the director didn't like, if it does hit me really, it gets through all my defenses and hits me kind of hard, then I just try to like work on something else for the rest of the day and not think about that, sleep on it. And the next morning I usually feel like, okay, all right, I'm gonna make it better than you expected anyways, and I'm gonna take your idea and make it even cooler. I get
Amazing.
the next day I feel a lot better about it.
That's cool. Yeah, that's great advice. So I have one question here that, if you don't mind, like Shawn, and also, by the way, you have time. It's 11 minutes past. I don't want to
Yeah,
take.
I'm fine. I'm good.
You're fine.
I'm having fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would like to for you to answer this question first, because I feel like as an outsider of the games industry, you probably have ideas.
Let's do
But
it.
is this?
Space in the game. Oh, I think so for sure. I think that there's like, unless I'm wrong, I think Hades is like, I've just been playing Hades like crazy. I don't know how much of that might have
I,
been
I think it's 3D, but
3D
to
with
make
like
to make
seeing
it
like,
look 3D, 2D, yeah. But
okay.
games like Cuphead are
Yeah,
straight up
yeah,
2D.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, there's obviously plenty of awesome older, like Street Fighter stuff, that has like beautiful
yeah.
2D work. But I think that there's room for um, any kind of medium in
Mm.
animation in a game. I know that there's at least a couple stop motion games in the works that seem interesting to me, and yeah, like Cuphead. That's a perfect example, actually. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think Sophia, to answer your question, I think there is. I think just like film or any other um, industry, I think games has space for 2D animation. It's just that people haven't explored that much. And as I keep saying to anybody that listens, we're such a young industry that, like, I think the 3D thing is such a big thing that everyone is trying to do 3D because that's what's normal. And engines work very much in 3D because everything is given to you by the engine and it's made that way. So if you actually want to make a game in 2D, you have to make it like Cuphead, where every single frame is basically rendered, added to the game into a specific way, and then put into an engine in a specific way. So it requires much more work for sure. And fingers crossed, as time goes on, there's going to be better tools for animators or game makers to make 2D games
yeah,
easier, right?
yeah. Like who wouldn't want to play a game that looks like looks like Lilo
Oh,
and Stitch or something? That sounds awesome to me. That'd be super fun.
yeah. This
What about
stop motion.
Ori? Is Ori 2D?
Uh, Ori, no. Ori is 3D.
Okay.
The character itself is a rig, but they basically have very little to play with. So they're basically applying all kinds of animation principles to make Ori feel super organic and nice. So
Cool.
it's really clever. Like the animator, they only had one animator for the first Ori. This guy is super talented. He did a GDC talk about how he actually kind of infused life into Ori and all that stuff, and the limitations that he had to deal with. It was
Huh.
incredible. But you know how, for example, when you have paper and pencil and you have to animate like people still animate. Like that was basically what he had. Basically, he had like a super basic rig that did very much nothing, but he still had to animate it in an interesting way. And instead of him
Awesome.
going like, "I cannot do this," he just went, "This is a challenge, and I'm going to live up to it." And
Nice.
then Ori came out, and it was amazing. So it's
Hey,
pretty cool to see.
movies like Spider-Verse or Mitchell's vs. Machines are two good examples of this. And there's a lot of short films coming to mind too. Of like movies, animated movies feel like they're increasingly getting a little bit of a mix of mediums, of like some 2D mixed with the 3D. And I could see that kind of thing happening more in games, which a lot of games have something like that anyway, with a lot of the effects work
Yeah,
being like 2D sprites. You swing a sword and there might be like a 2D
that's it.
that happens.
Yeah.
So like that is happening a little bit more in movies now, and I could see that happening even more in traditionally like 3D games could,
Yeah.
beef that up too.
Yeah, and games always had like this. They always been venturing into like this 2D effect, right? Do you remember Jet Set Radio, for example,
Yeah,
back in
yeah,
the day? Like
yeah,
I think games like that, they always had a little bit of like that ink vibe, or like Okami. Do you remember Okami? Like
no.
it was this wolf, this white wolf that it was like
Oh,
with
yeah, I
like
did
looked like
play it.
Japanese.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah. So that was 3D as well, like looking like 2D, and they pull it off pretty well. So I think we're on the verge of like just many games coming out that are going to be like super creative and 2D and stop motion and all that. I'm sure. I'm sure.
I think technology is finally getting robust enough in all of these mediums, including stop motion,
Mhm.
where um, there's like a creativity explosion starting to happen, I think, where they're cross-pollinating with each other in these different mediums, and that is giving us, I don't know, what I think is like visually exciting work
Yeah.
that is also more unique, and you could argue maybe more artistic in certain ways. And yeah,
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 and 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 another thing that I think, for example, Blizzard was one of the studios that pioneered that, was that a lot of film animators are coming to now games.
yeah,
Animators like yourself, like fans of game video games forever, and they always wanted to try their hand at games, and then you guys come through, and it's just like, why are we doing it so basic when we can do it this much, right? And then games, the game quality goes up a ton. I mean, like Overwatch is a great example of that.
yep, that's a perfect example of that. And
Yeah,
that idea goes the other way as well, where we'll hire a game animator who will bring a different sensibility, especially to the camera work for
interesting.
some of our like full CG sections of a movie, or doing like pre-visualization,
Hmm.
where they're coming at it from like a slightly shifted perspective from where we are,
Yeah,
and a lot of times they'll have like really exciting dynamic ideas for the shots and the cameras especially. That's
that
really
is that is
cool.
really cool. I didn't know this.
Yeah, yeah, like the guy at ILM who is one of the best previs artists that we have, his name is Kyle, is he came from games, and like I feel like when he showed up, it was like boom, he did some previs of something. I forget what it was, or just did like a camera for something, and it really knocked me out. And now he's
Yeah,
an incredible previs all the time. Yeah.
great. Really, really cool. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have any other questions, but if not, like I feel very conscious of like taking your time, Shawn. So it's like an hour and 20 minutes that we've been talking, even though it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, it's been super fun, man. It's been great to get to talk to you, and I wish that I had this chat thing up earlier. It's been fun to see
All the
everybody's
questions, right?
thoughts. That's cool. Yeah, yeah. So
Like,
thanks everybody for coming. That's exciting. It's cool to get to hear your thoughts. And I saw somebody tick by that worked on Kina. I think his name was Danny. Maybe it's gone now. It went by. Like I saw like for one frame of my vision, I was like, oh, cool. So good job with that. It looks amazing. Congratulations. Can't wait to play it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, so thank you so much, Shawn, for taking the time. It's been an absolute pleasure. What time is it over there?
It's 4:20.
4:20.
Yeah. Oh,
Still
you're up
early.
late, right? What time is it for you right now?
It's 12:20.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries. This is fun. This is great. The only problem is that I normally get really hype with these chats, and then it's difficult to sleep.
Yeah, I get it. I feel
But
better. Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you so much, Sean, and best of luck with the new project. I know that you cannot say much, but it sounds cool.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
excited about it. It'll be fun.
yeah,
It'll be
yeah,
fun.
exactly.
It's a
And
fun time where like I said, I just finished this like super long project. I was on Space Jam 2 for almost 2.5 years, like 2 years and
was a
two
long
months,
time.
which for us that's a super like a typical longer project for me would be like a year or a year and a half or something. So that was like a really long one, and it feels awesome to be starting like a short one. This one ends in September, so
Oh,
it's kind
nice.
of a fun, yeah.
That's
Fun.
really, really cool. Yeah, so best of luck. Best of luck. I still haven't seen Space Jam. I need to see it. As soon as I do, I'll probably drop you a comment on Twitter saying
Yeah.
how
Well, the
cool it is.
sequel doesn't come out until July, so you still got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Is it July that it comes out?
Yeah, July. Comes out
Oh,
in
okay. I thought it
maybe
was already
July.
out.
I don't know if it's different. It's not out yet. No.
Okay. See, the problem now with quarantine and all these other
Yeah.
things is that
No.
you don't go past the cinema and see the posters
Yeah.
and and
True.
like oh yeah, like in 2 weeks I'm gonna get a ticket and all that stuff. Like I'm completely lost about what movie is gonna come out when and the dates and all
Man,
that stuff. It's weird. It's weird.
I'm totally the same.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can't wait for it to get back to normal for movies.
Oh man, like
Yeah.
I was actually afraid for a second there that I was not going to be able to actually tell my daughters or show my daughters how awesome going to the films are.
Yeah.
Like buy
Yeah.
popcorn and like I was kind of a, but things are going
We
back to
get it.
normal now,
Yeah.
so
We
it's
get
fine.
it. Vaccines
Yeah.
are out. Get vaccinated. Get your shots. I believe in all.
Yes, get your shot. Have you got yours?
Yeah, I'm fully vaccinated now. Feels great. I
Nice,
cheered in the place when I got my second shot. And,
amazing,
yeah.
amazing. I
So,
got my first one on Friday, and
oh,
then I'm gonna get my second one in August. I think here in the UK they space it out and stuff. So
okay. That's awesome, man. It's great. Good for
yeah,
you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, Sean, I'll leave
All
you
right.
be. Have a great
All right,
rest of the
everybody.
day. Thanks everybody for showing up. And
Don't forget that animation's supposed to be fun. So if you do get frustrated, like take that break, refill your inspiration tank, remind yourself why you love this. Because if you don't love it, it's like really, really hard.
yes, that is true.
Yeah. All right.
Completely, completely.
All right. Thanks again for having me, man. This is really
No
fun.
problem. No problem. We need to do it some other time.
Yeah, totally. All right.
Awesome. Thanks,
Bye,
Sean.
everyone.
Bye bye. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.